Hey everyone! So leading up to the release of Wonder Woman 1984, I'm going through and reviewing all of the DCEU movies. And first up is the first released. Duh. So let's get into Man of Steel. If you've seen the film, be sure to put your thoughts down in the comments because I am always interested to see what others think of movies. Man of Steel is a 2013 comic book movie written by David S. Goyer, directed by Zack Snyder, and starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, and Kevin Costner. It's a reboot of the Superman story in which an alien is sent to Earth and has to discover why he is the way that he is and what the history of his planet has to do with the looming threat to his new home. So let's just get right into the good aspects of the film. The part that I liked the most about the movie was the way that the actual origin of Superman was handled. I think that the way that he became the kind of man that he was done particularly well. And most of the came from the stuff that they did with Clark's Earth dad. Kevin Costner gave a great performance as this all-American type dad who wants to teach his son to always be the bigger man and to be the good in the world while still wanting to protect his son from others because of how different he is. I also really enjoyed Kal-El being able to see where he came from and who his people were as he kind of explored his origins throughout the film. The whole journey of self-discovery that puts Clark on the path to become Superman really worked for me. Another thing that I liked was about the first 15 to 20 minutes or so, where we get to actually see the fall of Krypton. I thought that seeing the tragedy of their arrogance was interesting to see in contrast to Superman's father's, his biological father's, and earthly father's ideals, in which they valued hope and what is right. It just showed how different Superman was always meant to be from the rest of his Kryptonian race. This opening sequence also gave very real motivations to General Zod, the main villain of the film, and made him much more of a compelling character when he came back into play later in the film. Much more compelling than if they had just made him into, another baddie just focused on destroying the world. The next positive for this movie was the fight scenes, but in particular the fight scenes that featured just a few characters duking it out. Now, this wasn't all of the action scenes, and I'll actually get to that in the bad aspects, but there were multiple fight scenes where it was just, sometimes there was one point where it was just a one-on-one a couple times between Zod and Superman, or there's a scene between Zod's henchmen, if you will, and Superman. And I like these fight scenes because, A, it was able to capture what these incredibly powerful beings can do to each other to inflict damage. Because they're also strong and invulnerable, there's much more that they can actually inflict on one another in a fight. And B, I also like that they were able to see the mayhem and destruction that they caused to the world around them. Because when it's just these few characters fighting, it's actually comprehensible to the viewer's eyes. And so, because of that, it has much more meaning behind it. Now, the last positive I have of this movie is the score by Hans Zimmer. And not just the score, but also the heart of this movie as a whole is the last positive for this film. Now, I like most of Zimmer's scores. He's done quite a few really good ones. However, this one is one of his best due to a specific recurring piece throughout this film that I think brings out and gets to the heart of the movie, which is that Superman is on Earth to be hope for the people that live there. The music is so beautiful and poignant that it helps you get the point of Superman. Like, wow, he really is there to do good and give hope when it seems like there isn't any. And to me, that's a very powerful piece of film score, and it's also a very powerful theme of not only this movie, but I think of just superheroes in general. And, Superman is the original. And so I think that it just gets to the heart of hope and what a superhero is meant to be, I think. That is very cool and very inspiring. But now we got to get into the bad aspects of the movie. And I think that the worst part about this movie is that when we get towards the third act, there's a lot that happens in it that kind of slows down everything that was so compelling that had been happening in terms of the Superman character. And now I'm not going to talk in super high detail about about this because I want to keep this mostly spoiler free. However, one of the biggest things that bugged me was pretty much everything that went on with the military. Now, if you've seen it, you know that the military comes into play quite a bit, and I understood their involvement in the events, especially given their relationship that had been built previously with Lois Lane, and also just their duty to be security for the nation. But that, just because I understood it doesn't mean that I liked it. Particularly how they played into the last battle with the world builders, when Superman had to go to the Indian Ocean for a time, and the military had to defend what was going on in Metropolis. I found that the action was really messy and so oversaturated with CGI that I really couldn't see the action or really tell what was going on at all. It was just all sorts of oranges and yellows and reds exploding in different places, and you were like, wait, what character just did that, or what's happening here? And so there was that. And also I get that Superman needed to have some sort of big push in the form of a villain that truly needed to test him in order to cement his change from this unsure person trying to find out where he came from and why he's there into the man that he decides to be. And like I said before, I do understand Zod's motivation and think that he is a compelling villain. However, there are parts of when Zod and his crew come to Earth, and their interactions with Superman before they fight that just don't work for me. I think it's that they feel unnatural, given that they have no history with each other, like Superman and Zod specifically. All they have is Zod's history with Krypton and Superman's father, and so it doesn't make for a super compelling villain part in the movie. And so that all adds to the movie slowing down from an otherwise very, very compelling story. Another complaint that I have with the film is actually Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. Now, don't get me wrong, he absolutely looks the part just perfectly. It's uncanny how well the actor resembles the comic book iteration of the character. However, when it comes to actually making the character real and relatable, he really falls flat. His voice always seems pretty monotone and devoid of emotion, so it's hard to feel like he really cares about what's going on around him. And I think as he's continued to portray this character, as he's been in a couple more movies playing Superman, that's gotten a little bit better, but not by much. I think it's unfortunate when you have a character whose the story is super compelling and inspiring, but it's paired with an actor that can't match that level in his performance. So overall, I really did like Man of Steel as an origin story about this legendary hero. It was inspiring and really able to get you behind this character. I also thoroughly enjoyed the action when it came to individuals fighting with other individuals. However, the third act lacked what was brought before it in terms of the involvement of the outside sources that came into the story. Also, we had a hero that was not portrayed as someone who really emoted with what was happening in their life. To give it a score, I'd give it a 75% and thought it was a good introduction to the DCEU. I would recommend it to those looking for a good superhero origin story. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each of you who view these videos. This has been a legit review of Man of Steel.